Hi, I'm Jason, coming to you from the Boreal Museum. Today I want to talk about making plant pressings. We're going to use a plant press like this to make a pressing like this. Plant presses are used both by hobbyists and by the scientific community. Scientists will use plant pressings in order to identify species, understand ecology of certain habitats, and provide a future reference for species that might have gone extinct in a certain area or across the world. So let's talk about collecting plants for your plant pressings. When you're going out, you're going to want to prepare a little bit. So you're going to want to bring with you bags for collecting the plants that you're going to pick in. If you're going out for a short while, you can bring a paper bag. If you're going out for a little while longer, I would bring a plastic bag just so the plants don't dry out. I would also bring napkins or paper towel. That way if the plants are wet, you can pat them dry. You could also bring a trowel, and this will help you dig up plants, especially if you're collecting plants for scientific purposes, to help you collect the roots of the plant. And then you always want to bring a notepad with you or a journal, whatever you have. That way when you find the plants that you want, you can write down a little bit of information about them. When you're taking notes for your nature log, when you're out collecting plants, there's some things that you want to note. You want to note down the common name of the plant if you know it. Scientific name is even better, but most people don't know those off the top of their head. You want to know where you found it, the habitat that it's in, if it's a wet habitat, a dry habitat, if it's growing under trees, if it's in an open field. You want to kind of say those things about it. And then you also, if you can, take a photo of the plant right before you pick it. That way that you know exactly where it was and what its colors look like when you picked it. Because sometimes after you press a plant and it dries, it loses its color. And then always write down the date that you've picked your plant, and that's about it. So I've gone and collected a few plants here. And so there's a couple different things that I want to show you with the plants that I've collected. A plant like this is just a tropical house plant. So I didn't collect this from outside, this is from inside. Because you don't have any of the roots, you don't have any flowers on this. This is more of an aesthetic pressing. You could use it if you have to. You can press a plant like this. It does still make a representative, but for an herbarium specimen, you truly want as many structures as possible. Now here's something with a little bit more structure. We all probably recognize this. This is the common dandelion. And so I have the root with it, we have the leaves, and we have the flower. It's also nice if you can get a plant that has the flowers and the seeds at the same time, but that's usually not feasible, so one or the other, of course, works. So once you have your plants collected like this, we'll want to put them into the plant press. So I'll show you how to do that now. Alright, so it's time to put our plants in the press. So this here is the plant press that I'm working with. This is simply just 2 boards, 6 different nuts and bolts. And this way it'll apply even pressure over top of the plants. Now, I'll open this up and I'll show you inside. Okay, so inside of our plant press, after we take off the top board, we have several different layers. And these layers are going to help our plants dry. So at first we have a layer of cardboard, and then we have a layer of drying paper. Now your plants are going to go inside of this layer of drying paper. And then this can end up being stacked as many times as you need it to be. And I'll show you how to do that with one of our plants here. So here we're at our bottom layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our plants that we want to press. So I'll take our dandelion here and I'll carefully lay it out on this page. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to try and spread out all of the leaves and show all of the different structures. So that way when it presses and dries, after that we can't move it. So we want it to look how we want it to look in the finale when we first press it. And it's best for scientific pressings if you have both the top side and the underside of the leaf showing on the same plane. So if I have some of these leaves upwards and then I have some of them upside down so you see the veins. So something like this will work. So after I have the plant laid out how I want it to be, since I usually use post-it notes when I'm out in the field, I take that post-it note and I put it right inside of the pressing with the plant. That way they stay together and I don't forget what's what. And then I'll continue to fill this up, but you have to leave enough space between your plants. Your plants shouldn't be touching or else they'll rot. If you have water plants or anything like that, like lily pads, you really have to dry them off before you put them in here because they will rot because they can't lose enough moisture. So I'll start laying out the rest of my plants in here. Okay, so now that I've laid them out in here nicely, I'm gonna take the next layer of paper and I'm gonna put it right on top. So I have this blotting paper here, but you can use newspaper. You can even use paper towel. Sometimes you have to be careful with the paper towel though, because it will stick to different parts of the plant and you might have a hard time removing it later. So I would say newspaper works great, or even just white paper. So put it in like that, and that'll take away any immediate moisture on the plant. And then we'll put in our layer of cardboard on top. And what the cardboard does is it'll keep the plants from getting totally crushed when we put the weight on top. And that'll keep a little bit of the height intact without turning the plants to mush in there. As well as the air will be able to circulate through the cardboard to dry out the pressings. And then you can keep stacking this, so you can keep putting as many layers of this sandwich in as you want. So you'd add paper, your next set of plants, and then paper, and then the cardboard on top, until you can't fit any more in there. So that's all I have right now, so I'm just gonna put it together. So those plants are in there, and I'm gonna put on the top, like that. And mine has washers, so I'll put the washers on next, just to give it better distribution. And then I will start putting on the winglets. I'm gonna just loosely put them on to the board for now. And then once we get them all on, I'll start tightening them cross corner, and I'll show you that when I get there. So all of my wing nuts are on here just loosely, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten one corner, and then I'll tighten the opposite corner, and I'm just tightening them a little bit right now, and then I'll go to the other corner that I haven't done yet. I'll tighten that one a bit, and then I'll tighten the opposite corner. And this is just so your plants don't get smushed one way or the other, so it's kind of coming down evenly. And then you can keep tightening them until I would say it's just giving you just enough resistance. There, and now they're all in there. So most plants will take 2 to 4 weeks. If you have plants with bigger roots, or you did choose some water plants that you pat dry, because they're holding extra water, they're gonna take a little longer to dry. So those could take up to 3 months, depending on what kind of a plant it is. But usually it's just 2 to 4 weeks. And then when it comes out, it's gonna end up looking more like this. I hope you learned something and have fun.